guys, welcome back to the What's Next podcast. Coming to you from beautiful Monterey, California. And as always, brought to you by Livewelltherapeuticmassage. Right here on the beach. Man, I got a really good one for you today. I got Mr. Mike Moeller. Mike is running for Marina City Council District 3. And Mike's come in here quite a few times. He's into the massage. We have a lot of great conversations. We have a lot of just knocking around and talking about old times. Great guy. How you doing, Mr. Mike?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Right on. Good to see you, bud.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Usually I see you face down and working on you, straightening you out, but we got
angry knots.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about where'd you grow up? You a California kid or?
Yeah, Northern California my whole life. I was born in San Jose, and due to my parents splitting up when I was about 7 years old, I ended up in Sacramento and spent most of my school life in Sacramento.
Mom headed to Sacramento?
Yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah,
she had a family there?
Yeah, she grew up there probably her school years and ended up moving back. She had a special place in art for Sacramento, so she really wanted to go back.
Yeah.
So I spent, I'd say up until I was about 21 years old, I lived there, and then I ended up moving myself back to San Jose on my own, just to different experience.
I think I've had some musicians from Sacramento. I don't think I've ever been there, but it's a nice place, huh?
Yeah, it's a good place to grow up.
Yeah,
It's
a little capital, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Right.
Capital, California, sure. Rivertown, Lake Town. That's pretty much what we did in the hot summers was go to the river and lake.
Oh yeah.
Good
fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Then you took off for college, or did you go there?
No, actually, I kind of delayed college.
Oh, you said 21 you took off. What'd you go off and do?
I just looking for a different experience. My sister actually went to San Jose State. My grandparents had still lived here. Yeah. So I was looking for kind of a new experience. Yeah. So I ended up moving here, and I worked for a grocery store for about 8 years.
Right in Marina?
No, that was in Santa Clara.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, San Jose. And about, I would say 2000. When the computers were all supposed to go crazy.
When was that? I mean, it was the 99? Or
that was 99, 2000. I don't know if you remember, with the zeros, it was going to cause
everything to shut down, planes fall out of the sky. Yeah, that was scary, man.
Yeah, I ended up just taking a few weeks off of work, and not that I was super paranoid about it, but I thought, what the heck, I can afford to take a couple weeks off work. And I did end up moving to Sacramento, just again for a different change of pace.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Yeah, ended up just kind of coming home. I missed my friends and
familiarity.
So, yeah.
So you came back the second time. You hung out there for a few years, or
I was still sticking with the grocery store. I transferred to a store up there in Rockland. And settled in, and actually that's where I re-met my wife, who I actually knew the first time.
That's funny.
I lived in Sacramento, and we rekindled that relationship. We got married September of 2002, and we lived there up until I did get a degree in respiratory therapy, and then we moved back to the Bay Area to take a job with the county of Santa Clara in 2011. She had never lived in the Bay Area before.
Right.
But she was ready for a change of pace too.
Yeah.
So back up here we came.
Yeah. But you were deep into the grocery business, so.
Yeah. I worked 8 years total. I did assistant management stuff.
That's a rough racket.
It's really hard on your body. Stocking shelves and standing on your feet all day.
Sure.
It was a good job in the mid to late 90s, when things weren't too expensive. I can afford, to rent a house or rent an apartment on $22 an hour. But I saw the writing on the wall. There wasn't a longevity in that career as a grocery clerk. And of course, if I was still there, I would be in pretty poor financial shape.
Yeah, you'd still be in the same position.
Yeah, trying to make that kind of money nowadays, it's just difficult to keep up. So
just upward mobility. You almost have to get into a big corporation or something.
Yeah, well, I work for Safeway stores. So
that's huge.
It was a big, it was a union job. And, it was a big corporation. But, unless you got into store management,
That would have been the next step, probably, or close to it. Yeah.
That wasn't for me.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, so I tried some other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember working in the grocery stores when the kids were little. I'd take a job in the winter times, and just stock shelves, and I was in charge of, the Spanish aisle, and it's a Meyer Thrifty Acres. It was just like spend all night just stocking shelves.
Yep.
Making everything fronted, bringing everything beautiful, making everything. Man, I tell you what, I don't care what I did in this life. I took pride in what I did, man.
Yeah.
When I was done with my aisle, man, it was beautiful. Right. I took pride in that, you know? And people go, oh, yeah, you work in a grocery store. It's like, yeah, but whatever I do, it's going to be right.
Yeah.
I took pride in that.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I had fun. It was a great job.
Yeah.
But, I could just see, on the horizon, I was looking for something, something different.
And you were dealing with people quite a bit, too. So, that made you so much more social. Probably set you right up for what you're doing now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, I've always been a pretty social person.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, it was good training. That. Yeah.
So, we first met, we just talked the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, there you went, you got the bug to do medical? What was that all about? That's quite a jump.
Yeah. So I had a variety of careers. After I left the grocery business, I tried real estate and mortgage.
Okay.
So I was a real estate agent for a short time.
Well, that was happening back then.
Yeah, in the early 2000s.
Sure.
Yeah, it was pretty hot. And mortgage and loans, I got a good education doing that.
And what not to do, right?
And what not to do. There were some interesting things going on back then. I could verify that they would give loans to pretty much anybody that could sign their name.
Right.
But... and let's see, after that...
Good one to get out of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did work for I don't know if you remember Hurricane Rita and Katrina. There were the big hurricanes down in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. Right.
All those. So the Small Business Association had a program, disaster assistance, where they would loan people money that didn't have the proper insurance to try to rebuild their lives.
Right.
And they were hiring people to loan officers, basically, people to process loans. And since I had the loan officer experience, I was hired on to do that I worked for about 14 months as a government temporary worker.
Oh, I see, right.
So I did that. That was in Sacramento. And then I could have transferred to, I think, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas is where they wanted to transfer the remaining California disaster assistance workers, but I had no desire to move to Texas. So
I've lived there before. It's a beautiful place, but
it just wasn't. I'm a California person.
Right.
I just wasn't looking for anything different. And then, so I was unemployed for a little while, and then I found out that, through the state of California, they have a pretty good retraining program. So I thought, well, I'll find some sort of retraining program. You can draw unemployment. And so I thought I'd truck drive for a while, which was an interesting experience. I didn't like it. I liked driving a truck. I thought it was really cool to drive a big vehicle like that. But it was, I was gone a lot.
Right.
And that probably lasted maybe about a year and a half.
Right.
And here we go, looking for something.
Was it the loneliness, or was it just being away from your loved ones?
Yeah, it was being away from home. I'd be
Right.
gone anywhere from, a week. There'd been times where I was gone 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I would travel to the East Coast, Florida. I've been to New York. I've been, up north. And that just wasn't. It just wasn't for me for the long haul.
Right.
So.
It's a cool job, though. It's a cool job to get you from one to the next. Sure.
Everything was a life experience.
Right.
Me. Yeah.
Right.
I took something away from every job I had, whether it was shorter or longer, and I just kept trying until I found something that really fit for me. Something that was going to be able to provide for my family and giving me some sort of feeling of accomplishment or value in what I did.
Yeah.
So that's when I started looking for, I thought about the medical field because if you look long term, it had, security.
Right.
We'd just been through the 2008 crash. There was a lot of people losing their jobs. Work had kind of slowed down a little bit, truck driving right about that time. So I decided to leave that career, and I went to respiratory therapy school. It was a year and a half.
Respiratory therapist. Tell me about that. I don't know much about that.
So basically, we deal with anybody that has respiratory problems, whether it be children or adults, asthma, COPD, all the way up to more advanced stuff like critical care management. So, you ever heard somebody say I was put in a coma, I was on a ventilator? So when you come out of the operating room, or you have some sort of accident where you're unconscious, or your lungs aren't functioning properly, and you can't breathe on your own anymore.
Right.
They'll put a tube in you, and a machine will breathe for you.
Right.
So it's my job in the ICU to manage that machine.
Okay.
We monitor your blood work and make sure that we're giving you enough oxygen, enough volume of air. We're giving you enough rate. You're breathing in and out.
Right.
At the rate you should.
Oxygen levels, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's basically my job is to manage those machines for the doctor.
I've had some respiratory therapists come in and say that basically they had to be there for X amount of end of life.
Yeah.
And that was kind of their deal, you know. It's like that's a rough one. That's a great to have somebody with a great personality there as you're passing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as that person, you're also kind of taking on all of those. But the ladies that I've talked to they enjoy it. They enjoy being there with the person as they're, passing. But I thought there's got to be a lot more to respiratory therapists than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
That's why I asked.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, CPAP machines.
I see. You're right. Right.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different.
All kinds of different. Yeah.
Pulmonary function tests.
Right.
Assessing people for how much oxygen they might need. You see people walking around with an oxygen tank out in public.
Right.
Would be the
smoking a cigarette. I've seen that. I know, right?
You would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't. I don't know.
Flammable, right?
Yeah. People do find out the hard way. We have a burn unit, and people do find out the hard way. Yeah. So, it's been a good job. COVID was pretty hard though. That was, you can imagine. We had a lot of people on ventilators.
Right. Which maybe, looking back, probably shouldn't have been, or what do you think about that?
I can say that there wasn't much choice. I mean, once you get to a point where you can no longer sustain an oxygen level, or once your lungs get so inflamed, you wear yourself out.
Right.
If somebody has
just
an asthma attack, just trying to breathe, right. You just don't have the energy or the strength to just breathe anymore, and you'll just you'll pass out.
Yeah.
So that's where the tube comes in.
And then they kind of lose the muscles to be able to breathe on their own, right? Or maybe you should have put them on a ventilator maybe at a shorter period of time. But I mean, if they're not absorbing oxygen, that's a tough call.
Yeah. We tried to avoid putting people on a ventilator.
Okay, that was the point.
We threw everything we could at them, even what we call a high flow oxygen therapy, where you can end up feeding them 40, 50, 60 liters a minute of flow, and high levels of oxygen to try to give them some support without actually putting the tube in, because once you put the tube in, you have to heavily sedate them.
I see.
And we're talking fentanyl, propofol, other medications, to where you're asleep.
Right.
That's it. You're asleep.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of patients that ended up getting intubated did not survive.
Unfortunately.
No.
That's what I was thinking. It just took their ability to be able to breathe once they came off the ventilator is what I heard, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they never made it off.
They just never came back.
No. They just died on the ventilator.
Right.
Yeah. And that was tough because, early on, we were so terrified as to protecting people from exposure. Some of the early, quarantine type of situations in the rooms. I mean, we had plastic zipper bags over the doors, and reverse isolation fans, and all sorts of extra steps to keep it from being transmitted to anybody. We had some almost almost like hazmat suits. I mean,
Really, right.
Yeah, gowns and they call them cappers. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's a helmet you wear over with the face shield and the air, the seal around your face to where it filters the air. So when you go into a patient's room, it's more than just a mask. We were using these.
Was it actually pumping air into the suit?
Well, it wasn't a suit so much. It was more the breathing part of it.
Okay, right.
You did have a gown on and gloves.
Right.
And,
yeah, that's what you see on the news.
Like that.
Like,
we didn't really we didn't have any actual like hazmat type of suits for COVID, but it would almost look that way.
Yeah.
Based on how much protective stuff you had on.
My son's wife went into nursing just before the pandemic hit, and of course, being a new, they give her the crappiest jobs. And during the COVID, man, there was some really nasty jobs. She was like, "Nope, I'm not doing this."
Oh, yeah.
It was a bad time to start being a nurse. So she just kind of jumped into a really crappy situation,
So she quit that career, or
didn't end up doing that. It was just too much, right at the beginning of, because everything was so scary.
It was. I was terrified.
Truly, right.
Yeah, I was terrified myself because, any one of us could have ended up on the wrong end of it.
Truly, right.
Most people were on the older end, but there were still people that were in their 40s and 50s that we lost. I
think there was a lot of things that we did wrong, but at the time, we didn't really know a whole lot.
Yeah.
I was hearing, 1 in every 10 people in Italy died. I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Back up the truck. How many people are in Italy? That's millions.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a true story, but that's what was getting poked at us.
I
was like, oh man, if that hits America, it's going to be.
So
we were scared.
Yeah. We were terrified. I actually remember right at the time where they said, "This is it." We knew it was out there, and I remember when we had the first case and we went into lockdowns all throughout California when it took off. And
right.
Yeah, and so many months into it, I'd hear people say, "Well, I think it, hopefully it'll be over by the end of the year," or what. And I'd say, "Yeah, I wouldn't count on that.
Yeah, right.
We're in this for the long haul." But right around the time the vaccines came out, though, that's when you actually started to see the corner turn. So
really,
yeah, what your feelings are about vaccines or not, I can say, and it coincidentally or not, that's about the time where things started to ease up a little bit, and
people started easing their mind a little bit too, I think.
Yeah, probably.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it was. I can't believe that it's been 4.
Probably more than that.
We have 4 years, almost 5 years now. Yeah, going on. It's about 4.5 years since we first went into the first lockdowns, and it seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
But I would like to put that as far behind in my mind as I can.
Well, when it first came out, my kids called me on a 5-way call just to have a conversation with Dad. It's like, do you guys know something I don't know? It's like, well, I know you had tuberculosis and you had to work through that. And it's like, just, I was like, guys, I'm not dying over here. Like, what are you, having this big conversation, this call, like
right.
My last call or something. I was like, ease up, guys. I'm fine.
You never know. There was so much
unknowns.
Yeah. So many
they were scared.
Yeah. But, I stuck through it. It's...
You're front line, man. Good for you. How about that?
Yeah, I don't think you could have been any more front line on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
No kidding.
With you.
Good for you, man. That was awesome. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your. When I moved to California, I didn't really know anything about California, other than I don't want to be in Hollywood with the plastic people. I'm from Michigan. I don't know what that even means, but I don't want to be around that. So we hit about Ventura and started driving north. And I told my daughter, if you find a nice little town or something, you see something out there, let's just pull in and get an apartment. And when we came across Marina, it was just like, well, I'm a competitive sailor. It seems like a nice little spot, So we went and had breakfast, and the lady at the place was super nice, had some veterans sitting up at the breakfast bar, and one guy's like, we were just kind of shooting the shit. And he's like, well, I got an apartment for rent down the road. And it was perfect. It was such a beautiful spot, Wake up in the morning and just the layers of fog rolling in off the ocean. It's just like, this is unbelievable beauty. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All the sand and all the ocean plants and the succulents that I'm just so not used to. It was like, this is an amazing place.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did you stumble across Marina?
Sure. Well, my wife and I used to always love to take, day trips, or not really day trips, more like weekenders. Down in Santa Cruz or Monterey when we were living in Sacramento. So when I had the opportunity to move back to the Bay Area for the job, I thought, well, let's, we're renting for a while, so let's see if we can rent something in Santa Cruz. So after, I think about 2 or 3 years of living in San Jose, we moved to Santa Cruz. So we figured if we're paying rent in San Jose, it's not much different in Santa Cruz.
No.
So, no, it wasn't that much different. So at the time.
Yeah,
and that was 2015. I think we moved to Santa Cruz, and we rented a small 2-bedroom house. And we lived there for about 3 years, and we thought, well, we probably should buy a house because, rent's expensive, and we knew it was going to get higher and higher. But we couldn't afford a place in Santa Cruz, so we ended up moving to Salinas, and we bought a little rundown house in Salinas, and I fixed it up. And but we knew we wanted to get back to the ocean.
Sure.
But we knew we couldn't afford to stay in Santa Cruz because houses were getting just really expensive there.
Yeah.
I worked so much during COVID that I was able to save up quite a bit of money because I didn't have time to spend anything. I was working so much.
Anywhere to go to spend.
Yeah, or anywhere to go. So we discovered Marina. My wife and I, we like to do thrift shopping and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, right.
So that became part of our thrift store route. There's a Goodwill there. The Goodwill wasn't great, but since we were doing the loop around Monterey and Pacific Grove, and I think Pacific Grove was one of the other thrift stores we would go to, and we stopped in Marina, and I thought, well, this town's kind of neat, It was different than Monterey or Pacific Grove or Seaside in the fact that it was your standard residential development neighborhoods where you had, Monterey and Seaside, they have very small houses very close together on small streets. It's very dense.
Right, they do.
But in Marina, the neighborhoods were typical of the neighborhoods I was used to growing up in Sacramento. 1950s, 1960s houses.
A little bit of room between the houses, right?
Yeah, 6,000, 8,000 square foot lots with your typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses.
Right.
And I thought, wow, this is great. And it was a little more expensive than I wanted to spend, but I thought, if we could pull this off, we better do it now or we'll miss our chance.
Right.
So we did. We bought...
you were dead on too, man.
I mean, we would have, if we would have waited 6 months, we would have missed it.
Right.
We got in just months before the interest rates started climbing up, and that would have pushed us out. We were at the max.
For sure.
But we bought this house. I think our house was built in 1959. It's, another fixer-upper, like old fixer-uppers. This is you get a good value out of them, and you can fix them up how you want. It's about 1.5 miles from Marina State Beach. And as far as I'm concerned, I live in paradise.
Right.
I don't. I'm 15, 20 minutes from Carmel, PG, Monterey. I love it down here. If we want to go to Santa Cruz, which we don't do too often anymore, we can. It's not too far from work. It takes me about an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes to get to work and back.
Right.
I leave really early in the morning, and I don't get off till 7 p.m. So I miss a lot of the real, traffic jams.
Right.
I only work a few days a week because I have long shifts. So, it works out. The commute's not bad. And I just really love the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, really tight-knit community. A lot of really great people that live there.
Sure. I came in probably 2000. 11, I think 12, somewhere around there. And I guess one of the things that drew me in was all these abandoned houses that were boarded up. And I was like, what kind of catastrophe happened here? It must be a gas leak or I don't know what the heck happened, but this is some really expensive land.
I
He's
thought
like, I want part of this, whatever's going on. I'm a construction guy. I'm a developer. I'll do. What do you want for this land? Holy cow! I had no idea.
Yeah. It's funny.
Right?
Funny you mentioned that because I didn't know about it either, and I discovered that by accident. I drove down California Avenue. It was before I bought a bicycle from a guy in Marina.
Okay.
And he lived off of California Avenue, and that's where those houses, those abandoned houses are there that you're talking about.
Right.
And I was driving down, and I said, "What the heck is that? What are these abandoned houses?" And of course, I found out that was, part of the Fort Ord. That was Patton Park was a military housing development.
But as somebody that knows how to remodel or whatever, you're like, I can fix that.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, those houses are past their expiration date.
Lead paint. I'm sure everything, especially in California, that would have been a no-go.
Those houses are too little too late. They missed their window of opportunity to restore those houses. And they're slowly being demolished.
Yeah.
It's just expensive due to the asbestos and lead paint in those places.
Right.
I want to say, if I remember correctly, somewhere around $70,000-$80,000 per house to demolish because of because of the toxic asbestos and lead paint. They have to take the precautions to do that. So it's a long time. If memory serves, there's somewhere around 180 buildings out there, duplexes out there. It's a pretty large piece of land.
It's right on the ocean, though. Might as well clean it up.
Yeah, that's the
seems
plan.
Like a lot, though.
Yeah, it is. It's a daunting task. Yeah. But the city still owns it. I mean, that land's owned by the city of Marina.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
It's not a government land. They actually
the
city bought it.
Yeah. City of Marina is government, so technically that's government.
Okay, right. Where does that stand? I mean, it's not military owned anymore or whatever.
When Fort Ord closed in the mid '90s, I want to say it was 1994.
Yeah. I heard it was Clinton.
It started with Bush. Started with Bush 1. I believe they were going to close down a bunch of bases, and Fort Ord, their number came up in '94. And when the military packs up and goes, they pack up and go.
Right.
And overnight, the region lost somewhere around 35,000 residents because Fort Ord was so large.
Right.
The city itself of Marina lost somewhere around 10,000 residents that actually lived in the city of Marina.
Okay.
So you can imagine the devastation that a city endures when it loses, 35,000 paying customers,
workforce,
residents, everything, people that were no longer shopping in the stores in Marina, renting the apartments or houses in Marina. I mean, they packed up because not everybody in the military in Fort Ord lived in military housing. A lot of them lived in, Marina or Seaside.
Sure.
So
there's probably a lot of civilians working there.
Yeah.
Imagine.
It was pretty devastating.
Just like that.
But when the time came for the Army to dispose of that base, they decided to just give it away. So a lot of it went to the city of Seaside, city of Marina. They were two pretty large recipients of that land because they were the cities that were surrounding it.
Sure.
A lot of it went to the federal government, and that was about 14,000 acres that is now Fort Ord National Monument, which is to the east of Seaside and Marina. And a good portion of it went to California State Parks. And that would have been the beach area that was formerly the shooting range, where you see the bunkers out there as you're driving on Highway 1. Right. Yeah, that was the military shooting range.
Really?
And that is now California State Parks property. The entrance to that is in the city of Marina on A Street. and there's plans to build a campground there.
Oh yeah.
So, the city of Marina got a lot of land. A large portion of it they sold to Shea Homes,
Okay.
and that's who built the Dunes development out there.
Okay.
And that's a lot of brand new houses out there.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to say they started somewhere around the early mid 2000s, and then of course the economic crash kind of slowed things down. Of course they picked back up and they're building full speed ahead.
Right.
There's the Dunes shopping center out there, the mall that they built early on.
Right. That was all part of.
That was all four-door.
Okay.
That was all four-door property.
It's like a movie theater now that just went up. I think that was part of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that was all former barracks.
Yeah.
All those buildings that you saw, getting torn down over the years.
Yeah.
That was all military base only. That was not for public access. Light Fighter Drive.
Sure.
And what's the other street? Imjin Parkway. Those exits were exited to the four-door entrance.
Right, to the military, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Oh,
If
right.
you took that entrance or that exit, you were headed towards
Really?
the military entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's still plenty of buildings out there that belong to the military. CSUMB got a large portion of military land. That's
Really?
where CSUMB was born, out of military land.
Yeah.
They started early on with old military buildings, and it progressed to building
Yeah.
new buildings for themselves.
I had an old feller come in and he left his credit card, and I didn't want to make him come back. I was heading that way anyways, and so I got to just drop it off at your house, and we went, kind of between where the mall is and the theater there, and it just went straight. And there are tons of brand new houses or condos or whatever
Yeah.
those are back there.
It's a mix.
Beautiful. I didn't even know they were there.
Yeah.
And I
Those
was
are
like, wow, they're really doing a heck of a nice job over there.
Yeah, those are expensive houses.
Are they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When they first started getting built, I think the starting price was somewhere around 700, 800,000. But now the starting price is somewhere around 1.3, 1.4,
Yeah.
1.5
I'll take
million.
3 or 4 then.
Yeah.
I thought they were more.
Yeah, but they're still building like crazy.
Yeah.
And you have Sea Haven. Those are houses that are built across the street from the ones that are abandoned off of California Avenue.
Oh, I see. Right.
They had leveled some military townhouses there and cleared that land away to build a Sea Haven development. That is still being built.
Right.
And they just broke ground. They started grading to the north of the old Armstrong Ranch. The master plan was approved, I want to say, in 2008. And of course, again, the economic crash slowed that down.
Yeah.
So they just started grading that old Armstrong Ranch. I mean, they were, big rolling hills that are now being just leveled into, what's going to be 1,360 units of mixed, houses, townhouses, duplexes, and whatnot. And plus, I don't remember the exact square footage, but there's a lot of commercial stuff that'll be out there.
Right.
As well. So no slowing down of building out there because Marina has the land.
Yeah.
The Armstrong Ranch was not owned by the city of Marina. That was private property.
Oh, was that a private one?
Yeah, that was a private one. But yeah, the city of Marina did sell that. I want to say 400 acres to Shea Homes that developed the dunes and the promenade and the shopping center, and the Sea Haven development as well.
Right.
And they still have that what we call Cypress Knolls is what it originally was going to be a development, but the developers never panned out. So that's why those houses still sit abandoned and empty.
So far and then failed.
Yeah. The Veterans Transition Center did get a good portion of those buildings, and they did restore theirs. So they got a portion of one of the streets there. I don't recall how many units off the top of my head. If I was going to guess, maybe 20 duplexes or somewhere around there. And that's for veterans transitional housing to help veterans that are down on their luck or don't earn enough money to house themselves. So that's a great opportunity. And they're almost done building a 71 unit apartment complex on that same property that they own out there. I was just out there today. I drove by, and it's looking good. It's great. That's another opportunity for
like a low income type thing, or is it?
It's going to be 30 to 50% of median income.
Right on.
So of course that's tiered. A single or 2-person family, 3-person family, 4-person family. These are very small units,
right.
but if you don't have the means to afford the really expensive real estate around here, and you're a veteran, you really shouldn't. Nobody really should be unhoused, really, as far as I'm concerned. But
a veteran,
when you serve your country like that, it's definitely
right.
It's definitely a good thing that some of them can at least get some housing in that region.
Right.
So
being a massage therapist that works on mostly sports, car injury, or a lot of different medical type things. I have a lot of people that do a lot of working out, and they always tell me, there's just all this land out in Fort Ord, and there's just many places to go out and ride your bike out there, and there's running trails and blah, blah, blah. But when I first moved here, the old guys were like, don't go walking out there because you don't know, there's a lot of munitions that haven't been exploded out there. And it's like, okay, now something must have happened between when I moved here and when all these athletes are out here riding all over the back there. Did something happen there, or? I was literally scared to go out there.
Yeah,
maybe they were just telling me bullshit because they want me out there,
I
right?
honestly don't think there's been any accidents, as far as I know, of somebody just out there on the trails. Right. They have the area that they had any unexploded munitions pretty well protected, fenced off to where you're not supposed to go. And they do, it's an ongoing process to go through and find those unexploded ordinances or what have you, and retrieve them and clear the area for safe.
Yeah.
Every year, and I just missed it. I did it. I think they do it in July. I can't remember the acronym for the organization that is in charge of cleaning up those munitions, but they'll take you on a bus tour out there and show you where they're cleaning stuff up, and you don't actually go in, where they, but they'll take you on a tour of what's out there and tell you what they're doing, what they have to go through.
Wow, that'd be interesting
to clear those areas and find those things and
dig that up.
Yeah, so it's every July. They only do it once a year, but it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
And they take you in a tour bus and drive you around. I think it was maybe a 2-hour or so, tour.
Probably a pretty dang cool history lesson too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the space out there is so vast. I mean, you can understand it. Why the military had purchased all this land out here, because of the opportunities to train. All the brush out there and. The open space, the sand. I mean, all the training that they were doing was all related to the open space out there. So,
one thing about Marina, there's a lot of people that whether Fort Ord or whatever, when they retired, they were like, "Wow, Monterey or Marina was the most beautiful place I was ever." And they either moved back here or they got a job here or whatever. And it's like there's a lot of retired military here just because of that.
Yes.
Well, maybe it's the postgraduate school or the language institute or but Fort Ord is usually the main one that people I think Clint Eastwood was here.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley may have even been here. I don't know if I heard that or not.
I don't
look that up, but there was a lot of people went through here, man.
A lot of people went. My father-in-law was in Fort Ord.
Really?
Yeah,
okay,
he went through Fort Ord too in the I want to say 1966 or something like that. Yeah. So a lot of people did, because it was a huge base.
Yeah, it must have been huge.
It was a massive base. So big on. Fort Ord got a lot of their major expansion in World War II in 1940s, and that's where they built a lot of those barracks out there that are now mostly gone. But
and
those went up. I want to say I saw a statistic that those buildings, they were prefabbed, those two big 2-story barracks
Really?
that are out there, and one went up every 1 minute and 56 seconds or something like that.
No kidding.
I mean, they just. I don't even see how that's possible, but they did these large panels, and they went up there with big teams, and they just put these things together like,
Really?
Like
Not
a model.
Even craning them in. Just bring some more Army guys out.
Nope, big giant panels, and I guess that's typical for the military.
Sure.
They put things up fast, and they take it down fast, and they're gone.
Yeah.
So
I took my buddy over to. He's been in the Army for, I don't know, 24 years or whatever. And we went over to the Radio Shack or whatever, and there's this old military building sitting next to it over by that mall. I don't know if you know the building I'm talking about, but maybe it was...
The brick one?
The brick one.
Uh-huh.
He was like, oh my, he fell in love with that building. He was like, I gotta go over there. So we walked through the building and was like, what could have this been used for?
Right.
As a military guy, he's just like, what? This is so cool.
Yeah.
It's like maybe they can make a restaurant out of this because, this would be very neat to tie this into the old military feel of Marina. And it was like, God, I hope they don't knock that building down.
They're not going to. Originally,
Good.
Originally, that was built for, like engineering company, I believe.
Was it part of the military? Or?
Oh, yeah.
It had to have been.
Oh, yeah, that was built in the 40s as well.
Yeah, because they have where you can back trucks up in. And, yeah.
Yeah, that I don't recall why they chose to build that one out of brick, but it's my understanding originally that was built for the engineering company. It eventually became a commissary, and I believe that was probably one of its last uses. And the problem with that building is in order to make it seismically safe for any sort of restaurant or anything is so expensive.
Seismically.
Yeah.
There's something I've never had to deal with in building.
Yeah, so that's why that building still sits there, and whatever dream of making it into a restaurant, it just isn't financially feasible. But there is a plan, and I don't know if it's finalized yet though, but I don't know if you're familiar with in Monterey, they have these garage condos. There's a company that has developed a couple of them in Monterey, and they're basically like a toy garage for wealthy people. If you're into a rich man's man cave,
sure.
Or if you got a couple expensive cars and you want to store them there, generally the clientele that buys these garage condos are people with a little more money than me.
Right.
But the plan is to build one of those there and integrate that building into the design.
Yeah.
Because they can absorb the cost to shore up that building into their big plan of building these big condos.
Right.
I can tell you the website. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I have it. If you want to see the plans, the plans are out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have the permits finalized for it. I believe our mayor is not a fan of the project.
Okay.
But honestly, there's really not much you can do about it. I mean, if it fits the commercial zone, and it's private property, there's really not much a mayor could do to stop that type of project.
It'd be a really cool brewery restaurant, but how I can see how many freaking hamburgers would you have to sell to make that kind of money.
And that's the problem. I mean, you're talking a minimum $1 million at least to restore that building to any usable shape. I mean, minimum, and I guess it's just not financially feasible. So, but it's good that it'll be saved.
Most of that just trying to make it safe.
Yeah.
Before you even started the construction.
Yeah, for sure.
But what a beautiful little spot right there.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a shame it's shoved off back in the corner, but
I got your card here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Third council member, lead the example by driving. Tell me what's your main. Why'd you run? Why are you running? Obviously, you see something out there that you don't agree with, or you think you can. What do you got going on in your head?
Without I don't want to talk negative about the existing council because
No,
it's
sure.
quite possible
Right,
I got to
right.
work with them pretty soon. And
No, right.
I know them all. I mean, I have,
Right.
relationships with, all of them.
Yeah.
So in one form or another, we've all met.
Yeah, right.
But I think there's a disconnect, and this is just not the city of Marina. It's overall throughout the country. There's a decline in engagement between residents and their local government in either local politics or even higher, or just community involvement. We just kind of lost that. There used to be a lot of organizations like the American Legion, Kiwanis, VFW Hall, a Rotary Club. I mean, you name it. These were all really common organizations where people got together and they served the community. And just over the years, the membership has declined to where some of these places are even just closing down because they just don't have enough memberships anymore. So I belong to a lot of organizations, clubs that do volunteer work. The main one I'm in is Friends of Marina Parks, which we focus on helping the city maintain parks to kind of give them a hand, because the city can't always keep up and use the resources and the labor and the staffing to, make sure every last piece of trash is picked up or every last weed is pulled, or some of their beautification projects out there can't quite keep up to what the community wants to do. So through kind of getting involved in that stuff and paying attention to what goes on when the city decides to, I'll give you a prime example. Shortly after I moved there, I found out that they wanted to, a private casino owner wanted to revive a dormant cardroom license that had expired, but because of a window of opportunity in the California law with card rooms, this owner had an opportunity to buy that expired card room license from the previous owner, and he had to petition the city to get them to change the ordinance to let him put a new casino in the city. The way the old
Marina.
In Marina, yeah.
Well,
so they have a card room there already.
Do they?
Yeah. There was 2 card rooms that had been in the city of Marina before it was the city of Marina. Before, when it was just the county of Monterey.
Grandfathered in.
Yeah, they were grandfathered in, and these card rooms were, remember, Marina served the military. I mean, the houses were built there. It expanded in the 50s and 60s because of the military. A lot of the shops there and the stores were serving people in the military, and the card rooms were there because, that's how soldiers, that's how they spent their time off. They went to Marina and went to the card rooms and went dancing and whatnot. So, so when the city incorporated, they told the 2 card rooms that you would be what's called legal nonconforming. It means you can stay open as long as you don't expand, sell. There was all kinds of restrictions, or close. And once you closed, you're done. So when Mortimer's closed, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I may be a little off on the exact time, per the ordinance, that card room license was dead.
Expired.
Done.
Right.
Well, this window of opportunity, this owner of a card room came around. He owned, I want to say he owns a dozen card rooms. Yeah, 8. I'm not sure. And his MO would he'd go around and buying card rooms in areas, and then he'd go fix them up, per se. And he made a lot of money doing that. So when he discovered that there was a dormant card license in the city of Marina, of course, he wanted to build a brand new card room in Marina. And he almost got away with it.
Really?
He almost did. I joined up with a band of people that did not want this casino owner to come into town with all his money
Yeah.
and build a new card room.
Right.
And we fought and we fought and we pushed back and I did so much research on card rooms and ordinances and all this stuff. It got approved on the first time, but they had a thing where they had to do a second reading, is what they called it. So they had to come back and review it again a second time before it could be finalized. And on the second time, we got the entire city council to reverse their decision and deny the license.
Right.
And by that time, the state of California had closed the loophole. They closed the window.
Right on.
So now that license remains dead.
Right.
And that is probably the first step in really getting involved in the city government and understanding what it takes to write, law within a small city government.
Yeah.
And from there, me and this group of citizens, we've been involved ever since. And now a lot of these citizens had lived here for years. I mean,
Sure,
some of these folks
right.
have lived here 35 years.
Yeah.
I was the newcomer.
Well, especially being new in town, you have to feel like, what can I really do as a single, as a person? It's like sometimes it's overwhelming and it's too much. What can I do against this wind of, but then you actually get to a point where, hey, we just made a difference.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you got all bunch new air and wind in your sails.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going, hey, wait a minute.
So then
we can make a difference.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It was interesting. I found the bar to entry seemed pretty low to get involved, and I had no idea.
Right.
It's a small town.
Yeah.
It's not like, like Salinas has somewhere in the neighborhood of 165,000 people, and Marina has, around 23,000. So,
right.
It's definitely easier to get involved in city government at that level when it's a smaller town.
Right. It's funny. I have people in here that I deal with a lot of stress here, and a lot of the older folks are, I don't know, they just get so overwhelmed with so many things that they can't do anything with. Trump, Mayorkas, this little politics, it's just like, and I try to say, just shrink down your circumference of what you can do.
Yeah.
Bring it back down, even if it's 10 miles, man. Maybe just make that your circumference of what the things to be worried about. Because if you're coming in here every other week because your shoulders are up in your ears because you're worried about the political party and da-da-da-da-da, it's like, stop. There's nothing you can do about that.
Right. Exactly.
Just get involved with something. Maybe it's your school. Maybe it's the 3rd district, whatever.
Right.
You can make a difference.
Right.
Just stand around pissing and moan.
Right. Yeah.
Do it. Good for you, man. I'm stoked for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I decided that, my wife and I were going to live here the rest of our lives.
Right.
I mean, we found paradise. It took a lot to set roots down here. It was quite a feat to, buy a house that close to the ocean. I have no intentions of leaving, that's for sure.
Right.
So I decided, there's, if I'm going to live there the rest of my life, why not take a role in making sure that the progress of the city goes in a way that I think it would be best to go. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm just going to go and change the town the way I want it. My goal is to continue to connect with the community and understand what everybody else thinks. You can't stop progress.
Right.
We can't stop houses being built. It's going to happen. There's a lot of people that say, well, I remember when Marina was this or Marina was that.
Sure.
Well, unfortunately, we're not going to stop that. And we don't want to stop that.
Right.
Because, as the climate gets hotter, more people are going to want to move to the ocean. And, you have a choice. You can have a bunch of abandoned military buildings there, or you can knock them down and build some houses in a beautiful area.
Exactly.
But I think it's it's important to make sure that we don't erase every bit of military history there, and I see that happening. They don't seem to want to preserve enough military buildings. Now there's some that end up getting preserved that they can't help, like their equestrian center is really not. It's owned by the city of Marina, but the National Park System, I believe, has a hand in ownership or overseeing that. So it has to be preserved. It's almost like I don't think it's a national landmark, but it's similar to that. So that has to be preserved. Sure. And there's some buildings that will stay there. But a lot of people think that there should be a few buildings that maybe can stay, you know, but then again, the expense of, preserving and restoring some of these buildings is pretty expensive.
Sure.
Who's going to pay for that?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, my lady was a military child, She got bumped around and moved around, and they finally split up while they were at Fort Ord. So she grew up in Fort Ord, and we'll drive down there. And I can remember riding my bike down here as a kid. I remember we'd drive by on the expressway, and it's like, we used to roll down that hill when we were kids. So, I mean, there's so many people that have so much, Fort Ord ingrained into them from this area. That's a good idea.
Yeah, they still do. I mean, I know a lot of people, walking, when you run for office, you have to door knock. I mean, Yeah, I mean that.
Press in the flesh.
Right? That's a thing. I can belong to half a dozen clubs, and I can be, pretty well known to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But in my district, there's 3,300 registered voters and 1,400 households, and that's just registered voter households. There's going to be more of people that don't happen to be registered voters.
Yeah.
And I can't know all of them.
Sure.
So you have to knock on doors and you have to talk to people.
Yeah.
So I end up talking to people that, they bought their house new in 59, or, I know people that, that have lived there for many, many, many years.
Sure.
And I get a lot of great stories. I love listening to people's stories.
Yeah.
I can listen to people tell me how this used to be or how we came to be here. And you're right about people that were stationed there or did work there and were shipped somewhere else and decided they remembered, if we can move back here, we will. And they did.
Yeah.
So, we're still very heavy on military roots of people that have lived there. So, I think you have to make sure you listen to people.
Yeah.
And not just recklessly just calling all the developers to mow down everything and put up big giant houses that really are out of reach. You get a lot of people that did grow up there that if they didn't buy a house 10, 15, 20 years ago, their opportunity is gone. Right. And it's heartbreaking because you hear people say, well, I lived here my whole life and I can't afford to, I'll never buy a house here.
Right.
And rent just keeps getting more and more expensive.
Exactly.
And there's only so much you could take,
Right.
It kind of goes back to me working in the grocery store. I saw that things were going to get more expensive. And if I didn't keep up, I was going to get priced out of life, and and unfortunately, not everybody got that opportunity to, keep up, I was just lucky, I would say.
Right. That's why I was asking you about the lower income homes, because that seemed to be the main problem when I got here. It was like there's a lot of places for rich people to live, but all of us, nurses and massage therapists and people that make your bed at the hotel. And, it's like, where are we supposed to live?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't want to drive 20, 30 minutes to get to work.
That's a huge problem.
Huge.
Yeah. That's a huge problem.
Right.
And it's going to continue to get worse because if you don't build enough houses for people that work and teachers,
right.
Yeah. We can't keep teachers. The superintendent of, Monterey Peninsula School District said something around they lose roughly 100 teachers a year to turnover because they got to move on. They come there to get their start and they got to move on to somewhere else because they just can't afford to stay. So they go on to the Central Valley or something where the income to housing ratio is a little more tame, or Sacramento.
Right.
In the medical field, the housing to medical field pay is great. In here, it's just hard. It's hard for me. I make a pretty decent living, and it's a struggle.
Right.
Sometimes.
I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I've sent my kids to the same school that I went to, and one had a math teacher that used to be married to my football coach, and another son had an English teacher that I had when I was a kid, and it was just like that was really cool. I don't like the idea of just training them and shooting them on down the road.
Right.
Boy, that'd be nice to have.
Yeah.
Some long-term people that make good money, that teach your kid. You trust them on the football field. It's a different time.
Yeah.
My kids aren't even that old, but it's a different time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. We get a lot of people that move to Marina are, per I think Redfin or some of the real estate pages, they can kind of gather some data on who's looking for houses down there, because they could tell the source of the internet searches.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
So if you go to Redfin and you look at House Marina, they know that you live in San Jose or Cupertino or San Francisco or something.
Right.
And a lot of people that do move down to Marina are people that are from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And if you're retired and you've owned your house in Cupertino since 1973, and you sold it for $3.5 million,
you own nothing.
And you own nothing,
Right.
Even if you get, you pay capital gains taxes, but you're going to take all that stuff and you're going to pay cash for a house, a brand new house by the ocean for, $1.8 million. And that's who seems to be buying, those houses.
Yeah.
And that's great. But the problem is now you have a population of, retirees. They need services.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need a job, but they need medical care.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts to put a strain on the system when you don't have enough people to, work in the hospitals or police officers or fire department.
Yeah.
Or the stores, the grocery stores. So something's got to give, and if we don't build more affordable houses, and when I say affordable, I'm not talking about people that don't have jobs.
Yeah.
I'm talking about working class people.
Right.
Get to the point where, teachers are living in their cars. And that's getting more and more common.
That's terrible.
People are struggling to find a place to live.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of take a step back and go, okay, that's great. We're building all these houses, but there needs to be a certain amount of houses that fit the need. And there isn't a requirement to build more more affordable houses. But I can tell you the window to meet the criteria to buy one of these affordable houses is so narrow. Sometimes it's difficult to meet that window. You can't make too much to qualify, but you need to make enough to make the payment.
It's just dealing with this insurance.
Yeah, which is, this is
in the middle here. Oh, no.
Yeah, there's sometimes that you do the math and you go, unfortunately, you make $100 too much to fit in here. What are you going to do? You tell your boss to cut your pay or something? I don't know. I'm sure there's ways for people to, game the system.
Yeah.
But then you got to be a little more, crafty in how many people think to do that. It's still, the affordable housing is still can be kind of a broken system that needs some work.
Right.
So
you need Mike Moeller in there to fix it all.
Well, I don't know if I can fix it all, but it's on my mind.
Right.
We do need jobs down there. We can't have a region full of retirees. We do need working families down there. We need kids to grow up down there.
Yeah.
They're closing schools like
That's
crazy because not only are people having kids later, they're having less kids, but then you take on top of that a region that's really expensive. You're not getting the children you need to grow up in this area.
Right.
And we need the children to stay there because these are the ones that are going to take care of me.
Right.
If you're, in elementary school or junior high school or something, I'm going to need you to grow up and to be a nurse or a doctor or anything. Name anything.
Right.
Any job, because when I age in Monterey region, I need somebody to take care of me too. So,
Sure. Right.
So, you got to do something. You got to keep young families there.
Yeah.
You got to build smaller houses.
Smaller, more affordable, something.
Yeah, you got to do
right,
something to make it more affordable. Okay, so the days of a 1,600, 1,800 square foot house on 8,000 square foot lot, those days are gone.
Yeah.
We're not able to do that
Post-World
right
War
now.
II came back and there was
Yeah.
just
There was so much
cookie cutters
land. They just built them
everywhere.
like crazy. But now
Well, there's plenty of land.
you got to think more of the lines of townhouses or smaller houses.
Right.
Maybe getting down to 1,000, 1,100 square feet for a family of three. A young family of three. But that's what they used to have. My house in Salinas was less than 1,100 square feet. My house in Salinas, and it was built in 1962. It was 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath.
Right.
And that was it was on it's a bigger lot.
Yeah.
But that was the standard.
It's a happy existence.
Yeah.
As long as you got a bigger lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to get back to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to keep people from becoming homeless in the first place.
Yeah,
We've got to build more studios, more 1 bedrooms, more student housing.
Yeah.
I mean, CSUMB and MPC College is expanding in the area, so that's going to create more college kids.
Yeah.
Where are they going to live? More faculty. Where are they going to live?
Not too many homeless out there, is there?
Compared, no. I mean, compared to like San Jose or something,
right,
no.
right.
There's definitely more than there should be. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I really don't think. I mean, to say there shouldn't be any. I mean, there's always been people that were unhoused, but
Right.
When you find out that people became homeless only because the rent got too expensive and they couldn't keep up anymore, and that was the only reason they became homeless, that's when you go, that's a bummer.
That's probably few and far between, but I'm sure that is out there.
I don't know. I think you'd be surprised. A lot of people want to say, well, they became homeless because they got addicted to drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, from what I read, usually, it's a smaller number that end up homeless because of that. And sometimes people end up on drugs or alcohol once you're out there.
Right.
I mean, think how hard it is just to make it in this world. But then on top of that, you take the roof away from you. You take your everything you got. You're living out of a backpack or your car or something. I can't imagine.
I was talking to a guy not too long ago, and he has a fairly successful small business, but he just went out and he bought it was like a transport van for one of the prisons. Mm-hmm. So it was a longer one. And he's like, I'm just going to make this into a house. Right. It's like, there's no reason, for me to be paying these crazy. It's like, well, doggone, I feel bad. You're living out of your thing. And, he's like, well, that's fine, but it's like, is it? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's not cool for somebody that, he's been sober for decades and decades. Sure. He doesn't do any kind of drugs. He's just building a small business. And it's just too much to have rent.
Yeah.
I'm just going to live out of a transport. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what times are coming to for some people, not everybody, but, it just kind of bummed me out a little bit, We got to be able to find housing for people like that work hard and bust their ass and don't do the wrong thing.
Right. Yeah. And, some people say, well, this is prime real estate. This is, ocean, oceanside.
And I get that too.
Property. But, at the same time, if you continue to force people, if you say, well, I mean, where's the point where you say, well, you don't make enough money to deserve to live here, so you got to go out there. You got to go east.
Yeah.
Well, but you got to get here. Right. We only have 2 real main, roads from, Salinas, King City, Greenfield, Soledad. That's where they're, can build some houses out there. Salinas, I think, is a little far behind in building houses than they should be. But, you're building houses out there, and you only got Highway 68, and then you can go through Marina if you want to get to the Monterey Peninsula. If you live there in South County.
Yeah.
Those veins are already bursting in the morning time.
Yeah. It's kind of a mountainous area, though, isn't it? There's only a few places you can get through.
Right. Yeah.
So everything bottlenecks.
Yeah. Everything bottlenecks. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And
it's got to get more lanes, I guess.
Yeah.
Really. There's nothing else you can do. But still going to bottleneck.
Yeah.
Crazy. Because if you're not out of there, if you're not out of that nightmare by 6 a.m, man,
Right.
You're in a parking lot.
Yeah. And people just have to leave work earlier and earlier and get home later and later.
Right.
And strain your family and your free time and stress, and no wonder people drink.
I know, right?
So, it's a vicious cycle. Yeah. I try to, I know it sounds depressing, but, I think housing, I really think there's a reason why people say housing is because, I mean, if you look at a lot of the issues we have, you don't have a place to live.
It's stressful.
Yeah, it's stressful.
A tough one.
So.
But like you said, it's ocean property, so there's always going to be that big fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's expensive.
Right.
Developers are in it for money.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at.
They don't really care how bad Highway 68 gets or how many homeless people. I mean, they're here to.
I live in Oklahoma. I'll be out of here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. But the city of Marina does still own a lot of real estate. The city of Marina actually owns 548 units total. That was former military duplex housing that was restored and is being used and rented out.
Yeah.
It makes quite a bit of money for the city of Marina, for the general fund.
Really?
The rent roll is pretty good.
Yeah.
They don't owe a lot on it because they didn't pay much for it. It wasn't free. That's another story in itself. It's for one other day, but it does really well. And the good thing about the city of Marina owning that real estate is they can control how high they make their rents or how low they keep their rents.
That's a good point.
Yeah, a developer is going to want to get everything he can. And the city of Marina doesn't have to. Of course, every dime they get out of it goes to the general fund, but at the same time, you start pushing out people that, work in the city. There's a lot of city employees that live out there. The city manager lives out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Now,
I don't that he can afford to live somewhere else. But, and it's kind of public information. It's not a secret that he lives out there. But
it's a lot more diverse out there.
Very.
Than Monterey. I kind of dig that. Coming in from Michigan or whatever, it's like, wow, there's like everything is out here. Huh?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I don't know what the diversity is in Monterey, but I understand that Marina is one of the most diverse cities in the United States.
That's what it seems like.
As far as cultural goes. Yeah.
It's a cool place.
Yeah. I like it.
We got this little apartment when we got there, just off a little street called, I think it was Cedar Street. I don't know if you're aware of that. It's just like one of the first two roads that you take a left on after you get off the expressway. I think there's a Chevron there or whatever, and there's Papachevos and a little spot right there. So we had a little, when we first moved here, I had a spot right on that street. And my daughter and I used to walk like across underneath the expressway. I don't know if you know where there's a little water treatment. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
There's a path that goes along that and goes up over through and comes back over by the ocean. And we walked down there one day and I was like, holy cow, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Being Midwesterners, we used to walk down there all the time.
Yeah.
Just sit there, and just absorb just the energy of the place. It was just, and nobody out there. Every once in a while I stumble across a couple of hippies walking through the sand or whatever.
Right.
But, they're not dangerous or whatever.
No.
It's like, it's just beautiful land, just great, nice people. I see that they have done quite a bit to that trail since I was first moved in. Now it's got side rails and it's got, really dialed it up back there.
They have improved some, I think they call them vertical access or lateral access. Yeah, I can't remember what they call it. But to where you can get to the, that's part of the Monterey Peninsula Trail that goes along there.
Yeah.
And you can walk to the beach. It's not a super easy access.
No.
So I think that's that's really why it's so off the beaten path. It's not like you're going to bring the family and drag the beach chairs in the cooler and stuff up that big sand hill.
Exactly, you're right. I was kind of bummed out when they fixed that up. It was like it felt like we found it.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't the first ones there, but it was like, wow, this is like just alongside of the water treatment center, and you go over here over the hill, and there's nobody on that beach. Every once in a while, people walking.
No. You know, a Fort Ord Dunes Park is similar.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to walk down a canyon trail to get to it, and it's not a huge hike.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, you're not parking the car right there and dragging the cooler and the chairs to the flat beach. You have to go down and get to it. But it's nice if you want a peaceful little, you know, spot on the beach without all the commercial stuff. Like, you know, it's great. I love it. You know.
Yeah. We're sitting out there one day and some guy was walking up. I'm like, we're in California. How come we don't have any surfers out here? Right. And he's like, we just had a great white attack. Of course, this is 2011, a long time ago. But I was like, oh, yeah, note to self, don't surf in Marina. Yeah. But that's somewhere where that canyon comes up, so you get a lot of deep water. Yeah, you know, exactly. Just adds to the beauty and the fishing and everything else.
We're right at the mouth of that Monterey Canyon.
You are.
Yeah. Man. So I don't know enough about oceanography to understand, you know, how that affects the surf or whatnot. But I do understand that that's a unique spot right there, and that's you know, has a lot to do with why the waters do what they do right there.
Right. Yeah. So you were saying the great whites come up from the deep, and that would be where they come up. So, and it's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
I stay out of the ocean now. I might get up to my ankles or maybe my knees, but my days of body surfing or boogie boarding are past me.
You and me both.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a great time I had today. What are we missing? Anything you want to cover? We covered housing. What exactly kind of difference are you trying to make here?
You know, I think that's it's pretty much it. I just trying to, trying to see if I can bring the community back to the table. Yeah. Pretty much is making sure that voices are heard. Yeah. Because I hear that a lot is, I used to go to city council meetings, but, it's just they run so late and it's exhausting. I don't have the time. And, I think some people complain that the information doesn't get out there. So I'm not convinced that's 100% the city's fault. I think they do what they can to try to, get the information. And the meetings are public. They're broadcast. If you want to watch city council meetings, you can. They make it really easy. They're boring. I find it interesting because I'm into it.
Absorbing it. Yeah, sure.
Our website is a little is not really user friendly. I think that would help people to access information. Sure. If our website was a little better. And I don't know. We don't have enough people running for city council.
Okay.
So in 2022, the mayor ran unopposed. By the way, the mayor's been in office since 2008. In 2022, one council member ran unopposed. And
that's what you were saying. People just aren't getting involved.
Yeah. And like I said, this is all over. In fact, I was just reading an article today before I came in here that said all over the Bay Area, some really high numbers, something like 60% of city council races in this Northern California or in this, maybe it was just the Bay Area region, were unopposed.
No kidding.
Yeah. Whether it be an incumbent running unopposed or... Right. In the case of the council member in 2022, we just gone through some redistricting, and so he was the only one that ran for this new seat.
Right.
Nobody else did. And right now, there's 2 seats open. The incumbent in District 2 is running unopposed. Nobody wanted to run. And if it wasn't for me, the person I'm running against, who was just appointed 7 months ago, to fill a seat from the previous council member who resigned, she would be running unopposed as well.
Right.
So, and that's not democracy, really.
Right.
But it's not easy to run for office. It's expensive. It's time consuming. It's challenging, especially when you're running against somebody that's an incumbent, whether appointed or not. Yeah. I can tell you that the person I'm running against was appointed by the mayor and the city council, and they endorsed her. Obviously, they appointed her. Of course, they want to see her win. Yeah. So I got an uphill battle there too. Yeah. Not that we have anything, not that they have anything against me or have anything against them, because like I said, I have a relationship with all of them.
Sure. Right.
We talk all the time, whether it be text, email, or personal for one
Really?
reason or another.
Right.
You know, we have,
That's
it's a
great
small
to hear.
town. We
Yeah.
have other business,
Bet.
you know, to deal with. I
Right.
just happen to be running against their appointed incumbent, and I'm against their Measure U tax. That puts me on the other side of them as well.
I see.
Yeah.
Right.
They
It's
do
not a
want to.
partisan type of thing. It's just
No, not at
not
all.
even a little
You know,
bit.
no, like I said, I don't know exactly what all the party members are. Well, I'm pretty sure I do. As far as I know, I think they're all Democrats except the mayor. I think it's a Green Party or something.
Yeah.
Bruce is a great guy, but very outdoorsy.
I don't know what that means. I wasn't
Green
knocking
Party.
Bruce or anything. I just
Oh
don't know what his
no,
party's
Green
all
Party
about.
it's a political party. It's
No, I see, right.
it's an independent
Sure,
political
right.
party, but
Right,
I
right.
guess that's his political party. But it doesn't matter
Doesn't matter.
in
Right.
local
That was the point I
politics.
was making, right.
It doesn't matter. But no matter what happens to me in November, whether I win or lose, I walk away from this with an experience.
Yeah. Education too.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I would be running for city council.
Yeah.
Years ago. Last year, I kind of thought about it. you
Yeah.
know. So I mean, this isn't something I just decided, yesterday.
Yeah.
But no, I would have never imagined what it's like, what you have to go through, the paperwork you have to
Yeah.
file, the campaign finance laws you have to follow. You know, when you take donations, you spend money, you have to document that, then turn
To the
all this
penny,
in
huh?
to. Oh
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's pretty pretty serious.
It's like we just have great conversations and we seem to enjoy each other's company. We have the same kind of ideas of, that kind of thing. It's just really nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Nice
I hope you do well.
No, thanks.
Because I think you're the kind of people that we need in that type of office,
I do too.
Yeah,
and
man,
I'm
stoked,
not
man.
really
It's-
the type to toot my own horn, but I honestly think
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you running. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for coming in, Dave.
All right, thank you.
Sure learned a lot.
All right, thank you.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with us for a while. I didn't want to make that too long because I know we got an election coming up here, so kind of short. But I wanted to introduce you to my friend Mike and what a great guy he is. And thanks for hanging out. If you guys made it this long, hit the subscribe. If you got any value, hit the like button, or it does something for the algorithms. You know how that goes. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. See you. Bye.
Hi, my name is Mike Moeller. I'm a respiratory care practitioner in a public health system by profession. I have lived in Marina just a few years. When I first moved to the community, I dove right in. I fell in love with the community and started joining a variety of volunteer organizations. Like started out in Citizens for Sustainable Marina, out at the Oak Woodland, and natural habitat and park restoration. Trash pickups. I started meeting a lot of great people out there that transitioned to Friends of Marina Parks, that moved forward my passion for parks and open spaces. I am a member of Marina in Motion for just to remain connected to the community. I'm also a board member of our Chamber of Commerce that's in a rebirthing phase after some struggles in the past years. It's a long process, but we're doing our best to restore the relationship with the business community because there's so much growth here. My passions are really housing is a big part of the area. I believe we need more workforce housing. And I think being on the city council will help me take my volunteerism and my passion for the community to the next level. And I'm ready to get to work. Thank you.